This meeting is being recorded.
Hello again. Here we are today for our book study, The Magic of Thinking Big. We're on chapter 4. And I've missed the beginning of chapter 4. One moment. This chapter is about how to think big. So, what were some of your takeaways from this chapter?
I liked on page 76 where he said about the middle, the tendency for so many people to think small means there is much less competition than you think for a very rewarding career.
Mhm.
I've never thought of it like that. And I totally agree. And I thought that's pretty good. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, a little bit down from there was actually the first thing that I underlined in this chapter, where it says, ever ask yourself, what is my greatest weakness? Probably the greatest human weakness is self-deprecation. That is selling oneself short.
Mm-hmm.
And I so do that. I'm sure we all do.
Yeah.
But I know it's a big area for me. He goes on and gives the examples about self-deprecation shows through in countless ways, where the one guy sees an advertisement for a job, but he doesn't think he's qualified, so he doesn't bother to even apply. Or the guy who wants a date with the woman, but he doesn't call because he thinks she's out of his league. But then the next one says, then Tom feels Mr. Richards would be a very good prospect for his product, but Tom doesn't call. He feels Mr. Richards is too big to see him. And that reminded me of what we call our chicken list in our business. Those
Absolutely.
people that we think are too busy, they're too important, they're too knowledgeable to listen to what we have to say. So that
Too
one struck
successful
me.
already.
Right.
Even though really successful people they more than anybody need energy and to be healthy so that they don't miss days of work. And
right.
Getting
So
them to see that is a huge, huge thing. Kind
what
of
did
like
you
your
say?
father-in-law. Kind of like your father doesn't want to admit that he's got Alzheimer's. Really letting people understand or see that they need what we have. That seems to be a challenge for me, especially when the younger kids and they think they're doing great because they're flitting from here to there and don't stop and think about what they're doing to their body. To me, that's a challenge, getting them to understand or to
yeah.
even consider that they might need something.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. My our 20-year-old daughter is here for a couple of days, and she said, I stopped taking my Plexus because I've been so busy, but my stomach's really hurting. Do you think it's connected?
Sorry. Well, what do you think?
I'm like, stock up, because she's going to Thailand for 2 months. I'm like, stock up. You do not want to have stomach aches on buses in Thailand.
Especially eating different food.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lots of probio for
Yes.
strange things in the water.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Yeah. So going on to the next page, he suggests, he gives an exercise to help you measure your true size, where you determine your chief 5 assets, and then under each asset, write the names of 3 people you know who have achieved large success, but who do not have that particular asset to the degree that you do. Now, I didn't get to step 2, but I did do step 1. which is something I've not ever done, is sat down and listed. And this comes up from time to time. It's like, what are your strengths? What are your assets? What are you good at? And I usually think, I don't know. I don't know. And I have to turn to other people to tell me, what do you think I'm good at? What do you think of when you think of me? But I made myself do it this time, and I did come up with 5 assets. Did y'all do that? Did you do the 5 assets?
I actually
No.
didn't, because I read this chapter 2 weeks ago, and in my mind we already did it. And so today I did chapter 5
Oops. That's okay.
when I could have
Yeah,
been doing all
we've
this.
missed a couple weeks.
But have you ever done the Strengths Finder 2.0? It's really good, and it's
It
a
is.
test that you take, and a book that goes along with it, and it uncovers your top strengths and how to use them to your advantage. It's been a while since I've done it. I should probably do it again, but it's really good. It's called Strengths Finder
It is.
2.0.
Yes,
Just
it's
misspelled
very,
strength.
very good. And it's amazing
Is there-
how it hits. You may not have realized that what you do every day is what shows up on the strength finders.
Yeah,
That's really amazing.
I think something I've learned over time is typically what some people's true strengths are, they don't even recognize them because it doesn't require a lot of effort, right? Like I might be really great at something that you guys might see, yeah, Christy kills it at that, where I don't even think about it because I'm so naturally good at it that it doesn't require thought for me. But for somebody else, it might be really hard. And I think that Strengths Finders does a good job of that. Like you said, Gina, of like identifying what they are and allowing you to recognize them. Because sometimes recognizing and being shown things you're really good at, you're like, oh, that's cool. That can be valuable, you know?
Right.
It's like those things are so much a part of us that it's like the fish doesn't know it's in water
Yeah.
because it's just,
Until you get
that's the
out of the water.
environment. That's the nature of being a fish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So when I was seeking to transfer campuses within my school district, I had an interview at the campus I went to, and they were asking me questions like, what would you do in this situation? And I didn't have specific answers because I said, well, it depends on a lot of things. I would say it depends on the kid and my history with this kid. Is this his first offense? Is it his 5th offense? And so there were different questions that I asked that it always came back to the same thing. It depends on the kid and it depends on the day. And a lot of times I felt like I wasn't answering the question, but apparently they felt like I was answering the question because I did get the job. So,
Yeah. But I
but it
think
was just a
your
matter of, I do what I do. I'm not
Yeah.
sure what it is, but I do what I do.
Yeah. And I think those are great answers because there's so many, nothing is really black and white. I feel like, especially with kids, like, did his parents tell him last night that they were getting divorced? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
were there tornadoes warnings the night before and they didn't sleep because alarms were going? Like, there's so much to
Right.
something happening. So
Right.
I think that's
Exactly.
awesome. Yeah.
So, but I think that's part of that falls into sometimes why I have difficulty identifying my own strengths.
Yeah. But you did, right? You wrote down 5.
I did.
You want to
Do you
share
want
them?
to hear what they are?
Yes.
I said my teaching experience is an
Yes.
asset. And I was looking at it from because he said assets more so than strengths, which I find slightly different, related, but different. So my teaching experience, I am detail oriented. I'm a good listener and I give good counsel. Rather than tell people, I will go a long way not to tell someone you should do this,
Mm-hmm.
but I'll say, have you considered blah, 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 or what would happen if you blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
And if I were in your position, I think that I would da, 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 da. And I tend very strongly in the direction of using positive vocabulary, which he goes on to discuss in this chapter. And that's something that I learned to do from teaching.
Mm-hmm.
You rather than say this child struggles with math, you want to say math is a challenge for him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's just something I learned to do over the course of teaching. And of course, it has stuck with me. And these are exactly the things that he goes on to
Mhm.
discuss in this chapter about vocabulary and
Absolutely.
not using big fancy words that people have to run to the dictionary to look up, which I agree with that as well. But that word choice matters.
Yeah.
You know,
It
instead
really,
of saying
it really does.
Everything.
instead of we have a problem, we have an opportunity here. You know, instead of something being a weakness, it's an area for growth.
Yeah, I think, I've shared with you guys before the switch when I was going through my life coaching certification, where Rob, of course, always wanted me to save money and I wasn't very good at it. And when we changed the words, and instead of him always being like balancing the checkbook and being like, we're broke, we need to save more money, stop spending money. When I learned that those kind of words were triggers for me and kind of sent me in the opposite direction, when we switched to the words of we're building abundance, we're doing this so that we can have a more abundant life, then that to me felt really good. And it creates it created the effect that he wanted, right? For me to spend less and allow more to go into savings. But it was in words that I was excited about. And when I would be at Target, instead of throwing everything in the carts because I had money that week, I would be like, yeah, but I really want to go on a really, I was saving for abundance. I was building an abundant life by not buying 4 nail polish colors when I really went in for one.
We needed one. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Word choice is so huge.
Well, and the connotation of the words, because I spent years teaching that to students, how to read for it, how to read for connotation, and what kind of feeling the author wants to convey in their writing through the connotation of the words that they use. And then to get that to transfer into students' own writing about the connotation of the words. Well, I used that word, but I don't mean it in a bad way. It's like the fact that you don't mean it in a bad way doesn't convey. Okay. In general, this word has a negative connotation, so you need to find a word that says that in a positive way. And so again, that's why I say that comes very second nature for me in terms of finding just the right word. And I will struggle to find just the right word. It's like, it's kind of like this, but that's not the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, I love that. I love your attention to detail on that.
Well, and students would want to know, why do we have to study vocabulary? Well, because when you have an extensive vocabulary, you have a lot of words to work with to say exactly what you mean. Because when you have the word that says exactly what you mean, you can say it in one word, not 5 or 6 or 7.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that this part of the chapter resonated for me in terms of word choice and vocabulary and focusing on positive words rather than negative words.
Yeah. And me too, because I'm such a stickler on positivity and any little thing, the little things that I point out. I know it drives my family crazy, but also it causes them to think and reverse and
Oh yeah. I thought a lot about
it.
I thought a lot about our husbands while I was reading this chapter too, and how they're the realists. And it's like, I think you meant pessimist.
Yes.
Because he talks about this in the chapter, the people who, jumping over to page 82, that big thinkers see what can be, not just what is. And those are the realists that see what is and turn it into something negative.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, this is the truth. We don't have enough money. I need you to spend less money. You know, the real is my husband telling me that I'm just a realist. It's like, no, you're a bubble popper.
Yep.
Bubble
Yeah.
popper, same thing.
Yeah. You're
So
not
it's
looking for ways to figure it out. You're just
Yeah.
shutting it down.
Telling me why it can't be. Right.
Mhm. Yep.
So, so yeah, big section on developing the big thinker's vocabulary. Use big, positive, cheerful words and phrases to describe how you feel. Rather than I'm tired, I have a headache, I wish it were Saturday. And that's, you know, the realist thing comes back in there. Well, this is how I really feel. But if you shift your mindset and use the positive words, you'll start to feel better.
Right.
It's that outside in. Fake it till you make it.
It's a
Yeah,
thinking process.
Pardon
And
me?
looking for things, you know, it goes back to we've talked about our gratitude list and looking for things. You know, you two have just been along for the ride that has been my last 6-7 months, where it's like every week I'm like, again, something else. But you know, there was one truth that I've shared with you that I've held on to when talking to other people, and they're like, how are you even doing it? Whatever. And I'm like, my kids are healthy and my marriage is doing great. Everything else is figure outable, you know, but my core values are my family, and my priority is my family. So when I can say all my kids are healthy and my marriage is good, everything else is it kind of a shit show? Totally was for a while. But because I knew what my priorities were, I knew, okay, I need to set this down for a little bit because I got too much going on and I can't handle it. I need to set this down in order to keep this core that is and some people don't know what their priority is. And so it's situational things like were going on with me, cinnamon off, like they're completely off track, you know, and I just kind of kept staying center, and I'd be like, okay, bring it back in, you know? So it's everybody is not great at that, but I think when you truly know what is the most important thing to me, and you can stay focused on that in the middle of a tornado.
You can change your circumstances. You don't let your circumstances dictate your life.
Well, and circumstances and situations come and go. Right. You know, they happen and then they go away. You know, they happen and then something else is going to happen. So if you can stay at peace at your core most important things, I feel like you can really make it through anything.
Right.
You know, some things you can't spin into a good thing, right? Some things are not spinnable. But if at your core you're on good foundation, you're okay.
Well, and with the things that are not spinnable, I think there's always some kind of takeaway. There's always a lesson to be learned.
Yeah, usually.
Just when bad things happen to me, that's what I focus on. Is like, what am I supposed to learn from this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, so he goes on with, in developing the big thinker's vocabulary, use bright, cheerful, favorable words and phrases to describe other people, and be extremely careful to avoid the petty cut him down language. Use positive language to encourage others, compliment people personally at every opportunity. Everyone you know craves praise. So
Sonia
true.
Dudley is the best human at that. I've never met anybody better at finding some compliment to give to whoever is in front of her.
I have a piece of paper with notes on it floating around somewhere here with exactly, you've said exactly that about Sonia Dudley before, and I wrote that down about finds, you know, that's like a rule of hers or something. Find something genuine to praise or compliment about the other person. So I see that floating around.
Yeah, it
She's
really,
a good Southern lady.
yeah, I work hard to try to, you know, in a genuine, but because people know if you're fake, like, oh, your
Oh,
hair looks good. And like, it actually doesn't. I actually put it in a ponytail. You know what I'm saying? But you can find it, something nice to say about everybody, you know,
right.
each person.
It's a choice.
Some are
Right.
harder than others,
Yes.
but
That's true. Yeah.
it's
And
good.
that goes back to how good do you feel about yourself in order
Mm-hmm.
to be able to give compliments to others.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the last statement he gives about building your big thinker vocabulary is use positive words to outline plans to others. You know, here's some good news. We face a genuine opportunity instead of we got a lot of work ahead of us.
Mm-hmm.
Just in the next section, then he starts talking about the see what can be, not just what is. And so you have to think about what's possible, which again, that's the hang up between my husband and me. I look at what's possible and he tells me what is and yeah, why I can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so on page 84, he says, the moral is this, look at things not as they are, but as they can be. Visualization adds value to everything. A big thinker always visualizes what can be done in the future. He isn't stuck with the present. So, and I struggle with that because there are sometimes I get stuck in the realism and start asking myself, can I do this? Do I want to work this hard?
Mm-hmm.
Can I keep all the balls in the air?
Yeah.
And then I remind myself, you know what? You only think you can't do it because you haven't done it yet.
Yeah. Yeah. But
So
other people doing it around you is proof that it can be done.
true.
Everything is figure outable, and that's the honest to goodness truth.
Right.
Yep.
Right. I'm going to add that to my affirmations.
Everything is figure outable. I mean, Plexus had over 800 rank ups in April. Did you guys know that?
Did not.
I think I probably heard it, but I didn't write it down.
And the most, I think in April, there were, I'm not going to say for sure, but I think more jewel rank ups than almost all of last year. Last year, in 2023, we only had one person go diamond. In April, we had 2 go diamond. 4 sapphires, I think, and 5 or 6 emeralds in April.
There's only
Wow.
one person who went diamond in all of 2023.
Mm-hmm.
Does that
Wow.
say something about?
That's why lots of changes have been made. Yeah. And we
Okay,
talked a
like
lot of, yes, it's discussed with at like Emerald Extravaganza and jewel calls and things like that. Yeah, it's not ignored. It was not ignored. And there were lots of changes made. And now they're coming to fruition. That's why I've tried to tell people, hey, I know you might have taken a break, but now is the time to dig back in because the changes they've made and are making, that's why. It is not good to not have rank ups. It is not good to not have people making it into the top tier of a company. Those are not good things. And so, yeah, that's why so many changes have slowly been taking place. And that's April, I think it was like 848 rank ups. So
that's a lot.
Even
Yeah.
if you didn't have success before, now is a great time to believe. You know, it was hard to believe it, especially at the jewel level when nobody was changing ranks. Like, you know, if anything, we were all losing rank. Like I was grateful just all of 2023 to hold Emerald because nobody was going anywhere and a lot of people had fallen out. And so to see so many people, like the person who went diamond in April went sapphire in March. And so when you start seeing that again, that kind of momentum, you're like, okay, time to step it up, because now that's proof that the changes are working. The product changes are working. The combos, it's like, it's working because they are proof.
Well, and is it also comp plan changes and incentives
I think
in
a
addition
lot
to
of,
the product changes?
so I think we lost a lot of people when the comp plan changed. But the thing is, new people coming on don't have a clue what the last comp plan was.
Right.
And our comp plan currently is still better than the majority of any other network marketing company. Anybody will look at it and tell you. I mean, I regularly look at other comp plans and I'm like, so I think the change scared some people away that were already in it, and their income went down because a lot of people had very high PV. They had a ton of customers, right? And so their income went down. And there are some people that are like, oh, okay, how can I adjust and figure this out? And there were some people that were just pissed, and instead of being okay with their $1,500 a month, just decided to quit. And so what that did to a lot of Jewel teams is just drop us down, because the people who were very customer heavy on PV went away. For the rubies and below, I don't know that it made much difference. Maybe senior golds and below, I don't know that the comp plan made a huge difference, but for us, for a lot of us, it made a huge difference. And some people just walked away and went to other things. A lot of people went to Q Sciences and now they're all leaving. There's just, so for those that have stayed in it, I think now is the time. Evidence is showing, like, turn it up. People are watching. People are coming back that left. Like, it's time to turn it up. So.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. The next section, and I started this one, he talks about how much is a customer worth, and talks about how the small purchases add up. That a customer is not just worth what they purchased that one time. It's all the repeat purchases, the repeat business. It's the repeat business that makes the profit.
Truly is. Yeah.
And putting a big value on customers is what converts them into big regular patrons.
Well, in building that, same with in our business, somebody may start with something small, but as we take great care of them and they see benefits of ordering, how many people, I have a lot of people that started just with triplex that now get almost every product. That's good customer service and a great product. And when you have those things together, like incrementally, it grows our income.
Well, and that was the point of this section when he talked about how much is a customer worth, is that taking care of your customers, even if, of course, again, dating the book, it was about the sales clerk who said, I'm not going to put that much effort into a customer for a $1.98 purchase. But it is the care that you put into your customers is what keeps them coming back.
Yeah.
So I think of car dealerships with that. If they don't have a good service department, they're not going to keep people coming back for repeat car purchases.
Right. For sure.
So
yeah, like
my
I've
car's
really
in the shop right now, so I've got car service on the brain.
I had my Lexus for 4 years, and the service every time I took it in was so unbelievably amazing. And then I got the Kia, and when I take it in for service, I'm like, I like my car, but I will probably never buy another Kia because their service is horrific. Like the people that it's, what I'm saying? It's just like,
yeah.
And that's where they make their money, is the cars coming in for service. That's where the money margin is. It's not on Most car dealerships lose money on the sale of a car.
Hmm.
They make the money in the service,
Right,
and if you have a crap service department,
right.
that's hard.
You're not going to get your money back. They'll go out of business.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, putting big value on customers is what converts them into big regular patrons. You have to take care of them. Then in the next section, he told the story about the blind milkman, the blind
Mhm.
milkman who hadn't recognized that the family next door was going to start needing more milk in the coming months.
Mhm.
And reemphasizes that point of see what can be, not just what is.
Yep.
How is that account going to grow in the future, not just how much are they purchasing right now? So
If you're
this
not a
section
people person,
really
you don't need to be in
resonates.
that kind of business. If you're not a people person, you don't need to be in that kind of business. A person is a good person regardless of how much money they spend. And I know we
That's
probably
true.
discussed that over there, but
That's
it's like
true.
customer service. If you don't want to work on a carburetor, just a little bitty carburetor, don't go into customer service for cars because they are not all going to want to come in for the whole bucket load
Yeah.
at one time. That ain't going to happen.
Yep. So, and then in the fourth section there, the last portion of this part of the chapter, what determines how much you're worth? And on the next page in that section, I underlined and starred, I've made up my mind to look at myself as the person I'm going to be in a few short years, not as what I am right now. And then the person being described in that particular anecdote was old car, low income, cheap apartment, hamburger diet. But instead of placing that value on himself, he was looking at his growth potential truly.
Mhm.
And that's what we need to
That's what you got to
focus on
focus.
for, yeah. So it's not what one has that's important, it's how much one is planning to get that counts. But also the price tag that the world puts on us is just about identical to the one we put on ourselves. So we convey that in the way we behave. And so we need to put a high value on ourselves in order for the world to put a high value on us as well.
Yeah, I think how many people have you known that people kind of treat them like a doormat, take advantage of them, take, and they're like, and the person will complain, but then they'll still keep giving, and I'm always like,
being the doormat. Mhm.
don't, like, you don't have to give when they ask. You don't have to answer their phone calls. Like, they're going to continue taking from you if you continue to give to them every time they ask.
Right.
And if you don't want to give, don't give it. But so often, and so I always say, like, people will treat you as well as you demand that they treat you.
Mhm.
And if
Right.
people can't treat you well, they shouldn't be in your life.
Mm-mm.
Like, you're not a jerk for cutting people out of your life if they treat you like crap,
Right.
So being very aware of, and I've said this so many times, but how do you feel when you walk away from a lunch table with somebody? If you leave feeling like amazing, then keep having lunch with that person. If you leave doubting yourself, second guessing yourself, thinking what your dreams are good, don't have lunch with that person anymore. Like, make the choice to surround yourself with people that make you feel amazing, that you leave
Right.
just smiling, can't wait to tell your husband what a great lunch you had.
Yeah.
Right.
Instead of can you believe what she said?
Right. Very true. There it is on the next page. We've got 1, practice adding value to things. 2, practice adding value to people.
Mm-hmm.
and practice adding value to yourself.
Right.
Yep.
Visualize yourself not as you are, but as you can be.
Yep. And that's where
That's a thought.
affirmations come into play.
Say that again,
Right.
Christy.
That's where affirmations come into play, saying your affirmations every day.
Mm-hmm.
In the present tense, I am, all of the things that you intend to be.
Okay. In the next section, then, let's see.
This is where Harry kind of stepped in and got curious about all the departments and learned all kinds of things without being a jerk about it. And then he ended up being the one to, and that really, I think summing that up is just being curious, and learning, kind of being a sponge from people that you think are really good at what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And then before you know it, you've kind of become a jack of all trades, good at lots of things.
Right.
Because if you are planning to be a diamond, you have to know, like, it's a lot of different things. It's managing lots of personalities. It's leading, it's being creative. It's, again, leading by example, but loving, but also training. It's so many things the higher you climb. And so beginning to learn, like Harry didn't wait until he was the CEO to learn what everybody does. He started as a gold ambassador, learning what everybody does and paying attention to all their different trainings. And, we have access, all three of us, when we first started, all we really had for training was like Michelle and Tim Thomas YouTube videos and Sonia and Helen YouTube videos. Like, we didn't have anything else. And now, like, all the diamonds have their podcasts. They all have different training platforms. There's so many. And I think the important thing is like, who do you identify the most with? Okay, kind of dig into their training, because if you feel like you're not at all like somebody, the training is not going to be valuable to you, because you're not ever going to duplicate their actions or their thoughts or their steps, because you don't identify with them at all.
Right. It's true.
But
okay. So then he goes on to then to talk about how to practice being a big thinker. And in the first section, he says, what does it take to make a good speech? And it's not about all the little, don't do this, don't do that. Don't wave your hands around and don't pace back and forth, both of which I disagree with anyway. But he says what makes a good speaker is knowledge of what he's going to talk about and an intense desire to tell it to other people. So that echoed John Maxwell to me.
Truly, yeah.
Just an intense desire to share your message.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like John Maxwell has said almost exactly the same words.
I agree. Yeah.
So, and then the test of a real speaker is, did the audience get the points that the speaker wanted to put across? And I've never walked away from a John Maxwell presentation thinking, what the heck was that all about?
He's the best. That's why he's the best.
He is the best. He is really good. So then in the next section, it's what causes quarrels. 99% of the time, quarrels start over petty, unimportant matters. Little things, petty thinking causes arguments. And to ask yourself, is it really important?
Yeah. That's
Um,
the truth.
In the third section, he talks about the guy who got the smallest office and therefore decided that his value was related to the size of the office he was given and fizzled out. Not thinking about the fact that the person who assigned the offices may not have known that they had different dimensions, that it was just completely random.
Mhm.
But that his small thinking over a very small matter stopped him in his tracks. He felt discriminated against and failed to observe that the company was expanding rapidly and office space was at a premium. So small thinking about unimportant things can hurt you. And I think there's a lot of that that goes on in the rank and file of what we do.
Correct.
So and so didn't include me. So and so didn't invite me. Blah blah blah. It's like doesn't mean anything unless you make it mean
Unless you
something.
make it mean something. Yeah. We're really good at thinking we know what other people are thinking. We're like experts at that. Problem is we're usually wrong.
Correct.
We're
Correct.
usually wrong.
So it was either Dear Abby or Ann Landers who said you'd worry less what others think of you if you'd realize how little they do.
It's true.
So,
Yep.
And that even stuttering is a detail. The idea that one area that could be perceived as a weakness doesn't get in the way of how smart the guy is. You know, yes, he stutters, but he's really smart and he's a fast learner. And so that one little hindrance doesn't get in his way of being successful.
Yeah. And it was really how he thought about himself. You know, when the guy says, what makes you think you can sell? And he says, you know, with a stutter, but I learn fast. I like people. I think you've got a good company and I want to make money. Now I do have a speech impairment, but that doesn't bother me. So why should it bother anybody else?
Yep. Too many people take that as an indicator of intelligence or a lack of intelligence when someone has a speech impairment. And that's unfortunate and narrow-minded.
Yes.
So the to-dos that he gives in that section are keep your eyes focused on the big objective. You know, rather than when we fail to make the sale, you report back to the manager, like, I sure convinced the customer he was wrong. You know, focus on the big objective. The second, ask, is it really important? Before becoming negatively excited, just ask yourself, is it important enough for me to get all worked up about? Number 3, don't fall into the triviality trap. In making speeches, solving problems, counseling employees, think of those things that really matter, things that make the difference. Concentrate on important things. Okay, and then he gives a list of scenarios and describes the petty thinker's approach versus the big thinker's approach. And in truth, in most of these, I think my brain detours through the petty before it arrives at the positive and the big thinker. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I've said before to people, in certain situations, they're upset because something didn't turn out the way they wanted to or whatever, and they're depressed. And I'll say, you know, that's okay. You know, it's an okay place to be, but don't set up camp and stay there.
Yeah.
You know, allow yourself that little bit of time to be upset or be sad or whatever, and then pick yourself up and move on. What are you going to do about it? What's the next right thing?
We have those conversations in our marriage if somebody's struggling with something, you know, or veering towards sadness, you know, one or the other of us will say, okay, how long do you need to stay there before you pull out? I am gonna let you be sad. Like if it's, I'm gonna let you totally have every right to be sad.
Mhm.
How long do you think you need before I
Mhm.
start pulling you out? Like we never want to negate anybody's feelings, because some things
Right.
are really heavy and hard and sad, but also, like you said, we're not staying there. Like how long, like if something to me happens, I usually will be like, hey, give me about 24 hours. I really don't want to talk. I'm not cooking for you. I want to read my book. I want to journal. I want to be like not present for about 24 hours. I'll be good to go tomorrow. And just laying that out allows the people in my home to be like, okay, because they know I'm coming back. They struggle. You guys know this. When mom is sad, everybody in the house is like not functioning at 100% if mom isn't.
Mhm.
But when, so sometimes just saying, hey, I need a day. And then like,
Mhm.
okay, we can do anything for a day. Right? We can eat
Right.
goldfish all day long if mom's going to be back tomorrow. It's the unknown of like, how long is this going to last?
Right.
That tends to cause things to go into a tailspin, I feel like.
True. So, um, yeah,
And I
and
would
then,
think, like, your thought, just kind of touching on you saying you tend to maybe start sometimes on the petty thinkers approach before you get to the big thinkers approach. I might challenge you and say, because I think in marriage, especially as women, we tend to think in advance of what our husbands are going to say or what they're going to think. And when that we know that that's always a thing, you go there first because you know that's going to be their response. And then you move to the big thinkers approach because that's really where you are. But I think we as women tend to take on and carry the thoughts of our husband.
Mhm.
And then we have to, because we know, hey, I'm going to go blah, blah, blah. We know what they're going to say. What makes you think you can do it this time? Or whatever it is. And that's the petty thinkers approach. And then we have to move ourselves into the big thinkers approach because we have such big dreams and things that we want to achieve.
Right.
So I would dare say you may really have a big thinkers approach, but you work it through what your husband's response might be in advance. I don't know if that's true or not, but that might be true for me.
In some of the situations, I'm sure it probably is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anything else on that? Any other takeaways?
I think it was a good chapter of things that I love, and just again bringing it back around of how to think big. It's being positive, it's having belief, it's this is where your visualization and your affirmations really
Mhm.
come into play, and this was 70 years ago.
Yeah. Oh, 70 years ago. Whew.
Yeah, it's not anything new. People just keep writing about it in different words.
Mhm. It's true.
It's
It's
true.
true. Okay. So we're not going to meet next week
Correct.
on the 22nd, but we
Mm-hmm.
will meet again on the 29th when we will do chapter 5. And then on the day before, we will remind ourselves that it's chapter 5.
Thank you.
Hey, you're ahead because you've already read chapter 5.
Well,
Yeah,
and
you want to look at it again.
I will. And it was because I had folded my thing down without remembering we didn't do the chapter. I'd rather
Right.
be ahead than behind.
Absolutely.
And at least I've read it and I've highlighted so I can go back to it even if.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay.
Okay, thank you
Well,
guys.
have a
Have
good
a great
week,
day. Okay,
and we'll talk again in 2 weeks.
absolutely. Bye.
Bye.